The group chat notification pinged at 2:17 a.m., a cruel hour for heartbreak. "We're done, Ezra." "Sorry, not sorry," read the message from Liam, my boyfriend of 2 years, blasted to our entire friend group. By morning, the digital dagger had twisted deeper: memes, laughing emojis, and zero apologies. Ezra Coleman, 25, sat on the edge of his bed in his Seattle apartment, staring at the phone screen that had betrayed him. His dark eyes, usually bright with wit, were clouded with humiliation. The group chat, his supposed safe space with friends from college, was now a public stage for his breakup. He was a graphic designer, used to crafting beauty from chaos, but this was chaos he couldn't fix. His black skin flushed with heat as he imagined facing them all at the next hangout. Worse, he'd have to see him, Mateo Alvarez, 26, the smug barista who'd always rubbed him the wrong way, who was probably laughing hardest in that chat. Mateo, with his sharp jawline and infuriatingly perfect hair, had been Ezra's nemesis since their freshman year at the University of Washington. It started with a debate in a literature class. Ezra called Mateo's take on The Great Gatsby shallow, and Mateo fired back that Ezra was overthinking a rich guy's midlife crisis. The rivalry stuck, fueled by petty jabs over the years. Mateo's loud laughter at Ezra's failed karaoke attempt, Ezra's eye rolls at Mateo's endless coffee shop charm. Now, Mateo lived just down the hall in their shared apartment complex, a fact Ezra loathed even before the breakup. The morning after the group chat fiasco, Ezra dragged himself to the communal kitchen on their floor, desperate for coffee to dull the sting. The space was bright, with large windows overlooking the Seattle skyline, and smelled faintly of burnt toast. He froze when he saw Mateo leaning against the counter, pouring almond milk into a mug, his Latino features softened by the morning light. "Rough night, Coleman?" Mateo asked, his voice dripping with mock concern. Ezra braced for a jab about the breakup, but instead, Mateo slid a second mug toward him. "Made extra. You look like you need it." Ezra blinked, caught off guard. Was this kindness from Mateo? He muttered a grudging "thanks" and took the coffee, their fingers brushing for a split second. The touch sent an unexpected jolt through him, one he quickly buried under his anger. "Don't think this makes us friends," Ezra snapped, retreating to his apartment. But Mateo's smirk lingered in his mind, annoyingly persistent. Over the next week, the kitchen became a battleground of sorts. Every morning, Mateo was there, whistling, flipping pancakes, or brewing coffee with a flourish. And every morning, he found a way to tease Ezra. "You're up early, heartbreak kid," he'd say, tossing a dish towel over his shoulder like some cocky chef. Or, "Heard you're single now." "Good call." Liam was basic. The comments were infuriating, yet Ezra couldn't ignore the way Mateo's eyes lingered, or how he'd lean just a little too close when passing the sugar. It was flirting, shameless and deliberate, and it drove Ezra up the wall. Ezra tried to stay mad. He wanted to stay mad. But Mateo's persistence was chipping away at his defenses. One morning, Mateo handed him a plate of blueberry pancakes, saying, "Made these for you. Figured you needed something sweet." Ezra stared at the plate, then at Mateo's grin, and felt a dangerous warmth creep into his chest. He didn't want to like this. He didn't want to like him. But the kitchen, once a place of tension, was starting to feel like something else entirely. By the second week, Ezra's humiliation from the group chat had dulled, but his confusion about Mateo had not. He started noticing things. The way Mateo's hands moved when he talked, animated and sure. The way he'd hum old salsa tunes while cooking. The way his laugh, once grating, now sounded nice. Ezra hated himself for noticing. This was Mateo Alvarez, the guy who'd once accidentally spilled coffee on his sketchbook. The guy who thrived on pushing his buttons. Yet, every morning, Ezra found himself lingering in the kitchen longer, trading barbs with Mateo, their banter sharp but edged with something softer. One rainy Saturday, the kitchen was quieter than usual. Ezra walked in, expecting Mateo's usual antics, but found him sitting at the counter, staring at his phone with a rare frown. "What's up with you?" Ezra asked, surprising himself with the concern in his voice. Mateo hesitated, then slid his phone over. It was a text from his mom in Los Angeles. "Abuelo's sick. Might not make it through the month." Ezra's chest tightened. He knew Mateo was close to his grandfather, the man who'd taught him to cook, to dance, to tell stories with a spark in his eye. Without thinking, Ezra sat beside him. "I'm sorry, man. That's rough." Mateo looked up, his usual bravado gone, and for the first time, Ezra saw vulnerability in those dark eyes. They talked for hours, about family, about loss, about the weight of expectations. Ezra shared how his own dad, a pastor in Tacoma, struggled with his coming out, and how the group chat breakup felt like another rejection. Mateo listened, really listened, and when he reached for Ezra's hand, it didn't feel like a flirt. It felt like a lifeline. The next morning, Mateo was back to his teasing self, but something had shifted. "You're not so bad, Coleman," he said, tossing a strawberry at Ezra, who caught it with a laugh. The kitchen, with its chipped mugs and sticky countertops, was no longer just a place to argue. It was where they were starting to see each other, really see each other. Ezra couldn't pinpoint when the kitchen stopped being a war zone and started feeling like home. Maybe it was the third week, when Mateo taught him how to make his abuelo's empanadas, their hands brushing over dough and laughter filling the air. Or maybe it was the day Ezra caught himself smiling at Mateo's terrible puns, realizing he hadn't thought about Liam in days. The group chat had gone silent, the friends' teasing replaced by awkward apologies, but Ezra didn't care anymore. His world had narrowed to these mornings, to Mateo's voice, to the way their shoulders bumped when they stood too close. But doubt crept in. Was Mateo just messing with him? Flirting to get a rise out of him, like always? Ezra had been burned before. Liam's betrayal was proof of that. He couldn't afford to fall for someone who might not mean it. So, one morning, he confronted Mateo. "What's your deal, Alvarez? You flirt with me every day, but is this just a game to you?" His voice cracked, betraying the fear behind his words. Mateo's face softened, and he stepped closer, close enough that Ezra could smell the coffee on his breath. "It's not a game, Ezra. I've been into you since that stupid Gatsby argument. I just didn't know how to say it." He paused, then added with a shy grin, "You're kind of intimidating, you know." Ezra's heart pounded. He wanted to believe it, but trust was hard to come by. "Prove it," he said, half challenging, half pleading. Mateo didn't hesitate. He closed the gap between them, his lips brushing Ezra's in a kiss that was soft, tentative, then deepening with a hunger that took Ezra's breath away. The kitchen spun around them, the city outside fading to a hum. When they pulled apart, Ezra laughed, shaky and real. "Okay, you're not terrible at that." Their mornings changed after that. The flirting didn't stop, but it was laced with something deeper, stolen glances, shared secrets, hands lingering on waists. They cooked together, danced to Mateo's playlists, and talked about everything from art to family to the future. But the world outside the kitchen wasn't as kind. Ezra's dad called one evening, his voice heavy with judgment, urging him to think about his choices. Mateo's family, while loving, worried about his abuelo's declining health and the pressure of visiting LA loomed. The group chat, too, reared its head again when Liam posted a snarky comment about Ezra moving on too fast. The tension came to a head one stormy night. Ezra and Mateo were in the kitchen, arguing over a burnt batch of cookies, when Ezra snapped. "Why do you even care, Mateo? You've got your perfect life, your perfect family. You don't get what it's like to feel like you're not enough." Mateo's eyes flashed with hurt, then anger. "You think I don't get it? My abuelo's dying, Ezra, and my family's barely holding it together. I care because I see you, okay? I see you. The silence that followed was heavy, but it broke something open. They talked, really talked, about their fears, their insecurities, the weight of being queer in a world that didn't always understand. Ezra admitted how Liam's betrayal had shattered his confidence. Mateo confessed he'd hidden his feelings for years behind bravado. They held each other as the rain pounded the windows, and for the first time, Ezra felt like he could breathe. Months later, the kitchen was still their sanctuary. Mateo had flown to LA to say goodbye to his abuelo, and Ezra had gone with him, holding his hand through the grief. Back in Seattle, they faced the group chat together, calling out the toxicity and choosing to step away from it. Ezra's dad was still a work in progress, but he'd started texting more, asking questions instead of preaching. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. One crisp autumn morning, Ezra walked into the kitchen to find Mateo flipping pancakes, a familiar grin on his face. "Morning, heartbreak kid," Mateo teased, but his eyes were soft, full of love. Ezra laughed, stealing a pancake and kissing Mateo's cheek. "You're still the worst," he said, but his smile said otherwise. They'd built something real, something that could withstand the storms. The group chat, the breakup, the doubts, they were all just noise now. In that kitchen, with its chipped mugs and sticky countertops, Ezra and Mateo had found each other. And that, Ezra thought as he leaned into Mateo's warmth, was more than enough.